everyone. I'm Sharon Graham, and I'm relatively newly elected General Secretary of Unite, so just obviously in our 9th month. And I'm really, really pleased to see everybody on the call. It's been, obviously I want to make sure that I am meeting as many reps as possible. I've been starting that in the industrial arena. Obviously, I'm meeting reps by sector currently, and people may know that we have 302 disputes in Unite currently, covering 52,000 workers. And this whole narrative around jobs, pay and conditions, trade unions now must lead, politicians are not leading, and I'll come back to that quite a lot as we go through. Politicians are not leading, and we are really now trying to set the pace for a pushback for the working class and working people. So effectively saying we need now to stand on our own 2 feet, and we need to drive change together. And I'm really pleased. I've met the general secretaries from other unions. We're talking about coordination of action, and a lot of that now is beginning to happen. And of course, we need to make sure that we get this right and that we defend our communities and we defend workers across the board. I just want to say a little bit about, because today I think is really around you asking me as many questions as you want. We've got a good bulk of time, so hopefully you'll be able to do that. We've got a really good bulk of time, and I'll answer any questions that you want to ask. But I just want to say a little bit at the beginning about what we're facing. So when I stood for election, one of the most important reasons that I wanted to stand was that I wanted the workers' voice to be heard very clearly, and I wanted communities' voices to be heard very clearly, because these 2 things link. Workers are in communities. People in communities go to work, but they're also parts of communities. And of course, these 2 things for me link really closely together, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But in terms of what we are facing, we are facing, I think, a real lineup now of workers paying the price for the pandemic. And it's really clear that whether it's the government, the governor of the Bank of England, the CBI, all of these forces are coming together to line workers up and communities to pay the price for the pandemic. And we saw this in 2008. We effectively saw a tsunami of cuts as far as communities was concerned, and we saw a whole range of things in terms of workers paying the price for over 10 years and communities paying that price through austerity for over 10 years also. We'd only just got ourselves stopped talking about austerity when, of course, COVID hit, and essentially there was a very different economy. We are facing, I'm sitting in front of employers daily. I'm with reps and workers all the time. That's how I want my general secretaryship and leadership to be, on picket lines with workers in communities, driving the change from the front. And what I'm seeing is very, very emboldened employers. But also what I'm seeing is politicians with no guts whatsoever, not willing to come out and defend workers. And when that's Labour not willing to come out and defend workers, then we have to be making sure that we are calling them out for it. And people may have seen the weekend David Lammy's comments about British Airways. Of course, we need to react to that. But more importantly, how do we change what is happening politically? How can we make sure that what we care about, what our members care about, what workers care about, what the working class care about is on the political agenda? So there's lots of things that we're facing, and it will be, in my opinion, like 2008 on steroids, unless we are able to properly push back, unless we're able to push back as a union, and also unless we're able to push back as society overall with other unions and, of course, with our communities. So today I just wanted to open a conversation around our community, around community within Unite. And I see this as very much about what does the next 10 years look like for community in Unite. Obviously, community's been there for around 10 years, a little bit longer, and some fantastic things have happened across it. It's a very unique part of our union because we are the union that has community members in that setting. And it's really about now, how do we now drive this on for the next 10 years? What does it look like over the next 10-year period? So whilst there, of course, is the constitutional part of community, which, of course, I'm sure if people want to ask questions on, they will, and I'm happy to answer those in terms of representation, in terms of committees, in terms of the forums, in terms of the conference, and all of those things that are part of the constitutional part of Community and Unite. What I want to focus on today is slightly separate to that, although I'm happy to take questions on that, which is how do we now supercharge what and how we are able to drive Unite into our communities up and down the country. And critically, how can we work with our community branches and areas to essentially drive the political pieces in terms of what we want to push through. So in the manifesto, I spoke about a number of things. And one of the things I spoke about under community was to have this link, to re-establish or to make stronger the link between Unite Community and our industrial work, because it's not separate to our industrial work. You know, there's a lot that the link between Unite Community and our industrial and vice versa is needs to be made stronger, but also our link between Unite Community and our retired section of the union. Because whilst, of course, it's called Unite Community, in essence, there is obvious links between our industrial work and our work with retired members. So, for example, if we were talking about in our industrial arena, which we are, I'm talking to a sector currently, and people may know that I'm trying to bring stewards across sectors in Combine. So essentially, yesterday I had 300, just under 300 bus reps all together in one place talking about the issues for bus workers. We're bringing together all of our energy stewards, all of our hospitality stewards to really talk about what issues are we going to try and drive through and how can we create industrial benchmarks. So in those conversations in one area, we've been talking about the fact that the employers in this particular sector is swimming with money, awash with money, eye-watering profits in terms of money. And yet, for over 30 years, no union has opened an occupational pension scheme. We've been defending them. We've been trying to save them in every way we can. We're losing that fight, by the way, and they're becoming niche. But actually, why can't we force open occupational pension schemes in sectors that have an ability to pay? Now, if we're trying to drive an issue like that, which will be a hard-fought campaign, but there's, you know, we have a plan about how we're going to look at that in this sector, then there are obvious links between the demise of occupational pension schemes and poverty in old age. Yes, we're getting older, so therefore we're living longer. We're living longer. But actually, poverty in old age is also about the fact that safety nets have been taken away. Occupational pension schemes was once quite normal. Now you'd have to look hard to find any of them. And so therefore, the employers have been let off the hook. They've been told it's fine. You don't have to fund these types of schemes. So could we have a community retired industrial campaign about legislation around occupational pension schemes and also the state pension scheme and poverty in old age? You know, could we have a campaign that connected those three things together? You also then talk about food poverty. We are the union with the most food members in Britain and Ireland, actually. And so when you look at food poverty, the price of food, homegrown food, all of those things, there is a link between the industrial work around food and what happens to our food workers, and also food poverty in communities and all of the things that rise from that. So there is a number of things I could go on about the NHS. I could talk for, you know, on a number of different issues where there's an obvious link between the industrial community and our retired members section. So two things in regard to that. The first is money. So people will know that we affiliate to Labour. That's there. It's, you know, a bit of a red herring. I mean, it's £1.4 million. We affiliate. We continue to affiliate unless the Rules Conference disaffiliates. And so that's there. It's, you know, a payment that we make. But in any given year, we sometimes pay to Labour £6 million, £7 million, £8 million that they put into their coffers and they do with what they will. And what we're changing about that is that political fund, which is therefore our political work, which is not always just about the Labour Party. We are going to put that into some of our community work. So, for example, the occupational pension scheme linked to poverty in old age, linked to the state pension. I'm already speaking to the National Pensioners Convention. I've met with the General Secretary. I'm meeting all their regional secretaries. Can we drive a campaign together and resource that using some of redirecting some of our money? You know, why can't we have billboards up saying Unite demands dignity in old age? Why can't we drive justice campaigns? Unite demands X in terms of a particular justice campaign, rather than giving our money to somebody else who doesn't do what we ask them to do and sometimes does the exact opposite. So, for me, the first thing is funding. We have to fund these campaigns properly, and then it needs to be a tsunami. It needs to be felt in a number of areas at the same time. The second thing is, how do you do that where you are changing how politicians think? You know, I've said before, I might have said already on this call, that politicians follow, they don't lead in the main. They follow, test the temperature and go down that particular road. So how can we drive the politics rather than just intervening and commenting on it? Now, if we do what I'm describing, and this is all, a conversation that will be happening over many months, where we're saying, okay, well, let's pick 3 issues. Could it be pensions? Could it be food poverty? Could it be the NHS? Let's pick 3 issues and drive those issues through maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 over time, areas that we now know to be the red wall seats. Because if we were driving that in those areas as Unite Community, as Unite Industrial, as Unite Retired, not as anybody else, working with communities, being part of the fabric of communities, working with community groups, if somebody wanted to be elected in that constituency, well, they'd need to take up the issue we're fighting for, because that's what we'd be mobilising about. And that is a lot better than my time that I spend with Keir Starmer, which I do. Obviously, I meet him. But that is going to give me much more leverage, if you like, on the issues than an hour's conversation about promises that are never kept. So what we're trying to do now in terms of Unite Community, which has different parts of it. I mean, you have your coordinators that are working in the regions, mainly working on disputes, linking in with you as branch secretaries. You have the constitutional part of that. And there will be an officer leading that, because, of course, that will be, that part of the union and part of the work is still really important. We don't want anything to be lost, but we want to add on another layer to it, which Joe Rowling, who's on this call, is going to be heading up, which is effectively working with our community branches about becoming part of the community, that Unite Community becomes part of the community. And we also bring Unite Community into our industrial and our retired members' work. And of course, I've had a initial conversation with our retired members committee, and I'm going to be meeting our retired branches as well to talk about how we can link all of this together. So I think that we have got an absolute opportunity here where I believe the politicians are not understanding what is going on. We've never had so many disputes in Unite in our history. And part of that is about the refocus, but also it's about people have had enough with the way that they've been treated and the way that we are being hoodwinked to believe that this is now our fault and somehow we are going to be paying for it. So, look, I just wanted to give a little bit of an opening into the sorts of things we're thinking about. We can add to that. We can, we'll do things and we'll do it better. But I think Unite Community is something that we should be pushing on now to the next stages. Whether it's a relaunch or whether it's just action launches it is a discussion we can have. But there is a real opportunity for trade unions to be reborn, but also for activism in our communities to be going up a notch, that people can feel us and see us in their community areas. So thank you for listening to the opening. Again, apologies for the delay, but I will obviously take questions. I'm with you now for a little while to take questions and obviously hopefully build on that and have some action points from our first, I hope, of many conversations.